Okay. All right. So welcome to our panel, generational opportunities. We never like the word. Well, I like the word challenge, but in the right context.
Yeah.
So today I want to go around the horn here and take a moment to introduce all your esteemed panelists here. My name is Lauren Jones. I am the CEO and founder of Leap Consulting Solutions. I've been in the industry for now over 25 years. Every time I say that, the time keeps going and I keep feeling older. I'm going to have to come up with something like a couple decades or something so it doesn't sound so painful. But in almost every capacity, I started Leap Consulting Solutions in March 2nd of 2020. And we've had exponential growth, which leads me to my partner consultant, Erin Pittman. I'll let her introduce herself. Erin, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm Erin Pittman. I am the partner consultant for Leap as well as product advisor for Staffing Engine. So all up in the staffing industry, and I have been for over a decade. That's what I like to say. It's really like 15 years, but technically more than a decade counts.
That's good. I like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. In just about every capacity within the industry. And I'm super excited to talk about some generational opportunities.
Love it. Rob.
Yes. Hey, Rob Mann. I am the regional sales manager and co-host of the You Own the Experience podcast with Miss Lauren Jones, or LJ as I call her.
You didn't read your other job title on here. Come on, guys.
Yeah,
Clear winner of the Blue Steel competition.
Yes,
with this
thank you,
picture.
Lauren. Guys, I can't experience, I have to be a little bit embarrassed, and every time, yes, Joy, it's definitely a LOL moment. No, anyway, so we try to focus on the intersection of people and technology, and what I try to do is, help people get the most out of their technology by understanding that you have 3 customers, and we're going to talk about basically, serving all 3 of them, and I think everyone's done a fantastic job of that. So anyway, Lauren. And by the way, if you have questions, throw them in there. We'll answer them as we come in, and I'll pay attention to the chat. Let us know where you're from as you're tuning in. There's 130 of y'all now, just about. So don't forget to represent where you are from. And I'll turn it over back to you, Elle.
And I'm super curious. So drop, if you're comfortable, drop in the chat whether you're a millennial, a Gen Xer, a baby boomer, Gen Z. Super curious.
Yeah, can we get a poll, actually? I meant to ask you this on earlier. Can you get a poll for where people lie? Thanks, buddy. All right, there we go.
All right, that's awesome. So by 2025, millennials will account for over 75% of the workforce, and Gen Z is right behind them. And so it begs the question, are you ready to work with them and for them? And so we have an agenda today. We want to go over the facts, the data. Rob and I and Erin, we love data. And let me tell you, the internet was not short on data for this particular topic. We're going to talk about considerations in selling multi-generationally and, what you should really be focused on, because what a Gen Z likes, wants, desires is going to be different from other generations. So let's talk a little bit about culture, motivating, engaging, and retaining. And then last but not least, we couldn't go a conversation without talking about technology adoption and some things to consider when we are talking multi-generational technology adoption. Say that 10 times fast. Multi-generational technology adoption. It's going to be a thing. It's going to be a buzzword. I'm sure of it.
I have a tech support number with my parents, and thankfully, they call it all the time. So, yeah. By the way, Millennial is winning from the feed. Thank you, Jan, for getting that poll up so quickly. I should have told you before.
Thank you, Jan.
There is a good mix, though. We got some Gen Z, we got some Boomers, we got some Gen X. So, thank you guys for doing that.
Yay for the Gen X.
Yeah, by the way, we meant to say this earlier. We are not experts, nor do we speak for our generations. We are 3 people with opinions and who've done a lot of research over the last couple of weeks. And we do this, we talk to people of all generations all the time, whether it's our parents, I taught high school for 7 years in South Florida. So I dealt with a lot of Gen Zers when they were coming in. They're fantastic. So, and Erin, I think, feels the same way. We'll get to that in a little bit. But yeah, we're not experts. So ask questions. If we don't know, we did a lot of research. We'll point you in directions if they through directions. But I think
and this impacts all of us. It impacts all of us. So, you can very quickly become,
sorry,
let's
Irene.
just say,
really
informed. What's that?
We left out Gen X on the poll. Sorry, Irene. Not intentional. We appreciate you.
I think that's how Gen X is. Am I incorrect that that's how Gen X feels? Is that they often get left out of the conversation? It's all about.
It is how we feel. We just get left out. We're a pretty important part of it.
All right. We can all go on our pity parties, but let's get into the data.
Let's get into the data. All right, Rob, start us off with some of the data.
Yeah, so we just went through, and focused on a couple of key things here because we're selling, with the idea of selling to millennials and Gen Zs or Gen Zers, whatever you want to call them. But I found it fascinating that the first 2 points here, right? You have Gen Z spending more than 4 hours in social media a day. And then the stats, the site that I saw had YouTube, then TikTok, and then Instagram. But I put TikTok first because, I think men Gen Zers were YouTube first and female Gen Z were TikTok first. But I thought it was fascinating that those were the top 3. Everyone knows Mr. Beast. He is an incredible influencer and an influencer usually for good. And then I thought this was interesting, and I can also attest to this, but Gen Zers said they spend more time interacting with their peers via video games or online. And I think I do that too, especially in the last 3 years. So anyway, that was an interesting stat when I saw it. So I had to throw it in there because I do connect with my friends mostly through video games.
Well, what I think is interesting comparatively, because we have on the Gen X side is, unlike earlier generations, equality of the sexes really, we say it really began with the Gen Xers. Putting a ton of focus on women's equality in particular in the workplace has been very noisy with Gen Xers. Just like
Erin, you want to go through a little bit of the
Sorry, what was that?
Go ahead, Erin.
You're going to go through a little bit of the millennial stuff?
Yeah, I was going to say absolutely. I think in terms of like how millennials are interacting online, it's largely like 79% of millennials working on social media every day. I feel like that's
low.
That seems low. It does, but we all have those people who just don't have any online presence except for maybe a LinkedIn now and again. And then I think it sounds like working. I think that one of the biggest trends, and it feels like it comes up in every conversation, whether it's about like generational differences or whether it's about how to communicate in a selling environment or just about how people are spending their leisure time. I think that clearly like online videos are very much like where things have been and where they're headed.
Yeah. By the way, I have to say this Instagram stat was fascinating, and my coworker is the greatest example of this. She's a marketer's dream, which is why it says we have to talk about her here. So Courtney, if you are watching, you posted about this the other day, but literally inside of a 5-minute, post, 5 minutes later, I think 7 people had bought the alarm clock that she was talking about. So, yeah, it's definitely easy to sell on Instagram. And by the way, I'd searched it and then I went on Instagram afterwards and I had 6 influencer marketing paid ads hit me for the same alarm clock. So Matt Dichter knows what I'm talking about. Renee Beach knows what I'm talking about. We all bought a Hatch alarm clock on Instagram, basically from a post from someone that we work with. See? Hatch alarm trending way up.
I think that ties really clearly, honestly, like into the like how to sell and communicate with folks in different generations too. I think like not just being where they are and communicating in that way, but also the ability to validate. And I think that's where all 3 of us really like our careers came from. Well, we've been doing this. We relate to the people now that we are selling to and communicating with and working for because we've done the work. We've been in the space. And so we are able to influence genuinely as opposed to speaking from a place of like with a degree of removal.
Right. If you look at, let's move on to these 2 because I want to dig into this, but the one consistency I found across all of the data, and we're going to get into the attraction and engagement, but all 3 generations, so Gen X, Gen Z, and Gen Y, or otherwise known as millennials, the number 1 word attributed to sales behavior or attraction behavior with all 3 of those generations was authenticity. And you're going to see that word as thematically throughout all of this because all 3 generations respond, click, and buy, and they feel connected to something. And you feel connection when we are displaying authenticity. And so it's important to know, with all of this data that we have here, and you're going to get this presentation post, that it is all wrapped in a bow with authenticity. And I don't know that I can stress that enough. But Rob, I'll let you start off here.
Yeah, so just to kind of summarize what this is for millennials, it's, again, authenticity is first. Your values have to align. I think millennials maybe a little bit less than Gen Z where the values align, but it's definitely, if you are a mission-based organization, it's going to help you. You could think about the, things that you've seen pretty clearly, like Allbirds is a great example, right? Or Warby Parker, where it's buy one, give one. I'm pretty lucky. I think Kylo has really good mission, vision, and values. And by the way, all of the people who talked about marketing before this in the sessions really talked about mission, vision, and values. And Lauren, I know when she does a technology project with people, she makes like the first thing she asks you is, what are your mission, vision, and values? Let's align your tech to that. You also have to align how you sell, talk about your brand to your mission, vision, and values, because as you can see, the top bullet points for both of these is values are important and who your brand is important. So even if you want to be transactional, and that's just how your business works, you have to at least have some mission, vision, and values on the website and live to them in some degree. Otherwise, I don't think that it's gonna be as easy to be transactional. So there's that. I think you have to remember for both these generations that we can find information faster than you can tell us it. And that goes the way that people are selling, right? You can't be, this is the easiest way to say it, is you're no longer going to be the expert on the product. So your website has to make your buyer the expert on the product, whether that's your staffing services or, and this is saying it because we have 2 customers, really 3. You got a notification on. You have 3 customers, right? So whether you're selling, your services, if you're selling yourself to a candidate, or you're trying to attract talent to your business, you really need to make it easy for people to understand who you are and what you do on the website. And then I love this. So my wife and I, we don't buy gifts, we buy experiences for each other for our birthdays. And I saw this in the reading and I was like, that lines up. So we buy like a little something, but we always try to find things to do together. And there was like some stat of like, I think it was like 69% of millennials are saving with their significant other or somebody to go on a trip. So the idea of experiences over things, I guess, is a general theme on the millennial side. All right, that's the millennial. Erin, you want to sum up the Gen Zers, even though, again, we're not.
Of course. But yes, we are very elder millennials. No, but I think that what you were saying about the consistency about values and authenticity, something that I think that there's a distinction, at least in terms of like folks that I've interviewed. I found that for millennials, it's really important that the company that they're going to work for has values. In staffing, you need to figure out how that translates then obviously into what questions are you asking your client that are going to attract candidates to that position, being really authentic. Like they can tell if it's a sales tactic. But I think that Gen Z, they potentially care more about what is actually done. Like how diverse actually is your company? Not necessarily like what are you marketing yourselves on, but they really do see and they can see in the types of technology that are being offered. Is that something I think that's really important, like making sure that people have an accurate understanding of the workplace. It also can help when you're kind of like advising your customers on how to interview these folks that are coming in. The same, like being authentic, asking questions that are incredibly straightforward. My favorite thing about working with Gen Z folks is that truly they say what they mean, what they say. They believe in coming in, doing their job and doing a great job, and then going home. I think it's really important for millennials to have their values represented in their workplace. And Gen Z are also okay with their values being something that they're pursuing, like things that they care about in their free time.
Right. And then, so to summarize the 3 generations in terms of selling and attraction, each generation is going to be different in their preferences and values. But if you look at all the data, you look at all the research, you look at all the articles, Gen X may value stability and practicality in a partner or a partnership. So giving them data and referring to length of business, referring to length of relationship, having referrals, that's going to speak to Gen X. Whereas millennials may value more, they want transparency. They're motivated by knowing what's happening, when it's happening. And so that shared communication, that transparency is like the ultimate goal in the relationship with millennials. And then Gen Z prioritizes individuality and their own individuality and authenticity, reciprocating authenticity from you. So Gen Z is feeling really good about who they are as people, and they want to know who you are too. And they can sniff out, like Erin said earlier, they can sniff out the fake profile or the, fake this or that. And that referral mechanism, that what we're talking about with all the generations is a huge, particularly in our industry, when you look at our referral statistics, we have 3 generations here that thrive in that referral wheel. So the one question that I'm coaching all of our customers on to, because, we're walking into 2023 with this economy that feels like we're on, loose ground. And so how are we going to dig in and create that connective tissue to retain the business that we have and build as much as we can? Well, we've given you some good interaction tips, right? How to get that attention, but all of it built around authenticity, transparency, and community. Community, I think you're going to see these things like Chief and Pavilion, Learning Brew. Rob and I have some fun stuff coming in the future, as we look to build a community off of YOE and within our industry. But community, I think you're going to hear that word over and over again, because as we navigate through this year, but then this hybrid work environment, that connection and community is going to be of the utmost importance. And that's on the customer client side, and that's on the talent side. So all of these, motivations speak to selling and or attracting this generation talent.
I think also I think speed, responsiveness is also something like there truly is at a, actual physical level an expectation, like an increased expectation on speed. Delayed gratification is not necessarily something it never has been. Like, speed has always been key in staffing, but I think even more so now, communication is expected to be relatively quick. And so I think that makes a big difference in terms of when you're working with your client, making sure that you've established what time frame you're planning to follow up, just so that you're setting those very clear expectations, and also making sure that you're doing it as quickly as possible, making sure that you have technical efficiencies, which we're going to be talking about in just a minute, that can make sure that you are able to accommodate that need for speed, which was not something I had planned to say, but I did, and now it's come out of my mouth.
For speed. Did you just Top Gun us?
I did. See, I can do Gen X. Look at me.
I can do Gen X. Okay. Well done, my friend. We want to bring up one particular medium that we think is going to be really exciting when we talk about attraction and engagement. And I'm teasing it just a little bit because I feel like it's been overlooked in technology conversations that we've had when we talk about advertising and attraction, stickiness with existing customers, even adoption for that matter. And so we want to talk specifically about video as a part of your strategy. Particularly, we opened with that 75% of the workforce is going to be millennials, and then Gen Z is right behind them. So what are you doing with video? That's the specific question. Is video a part of your strategy? If it isn't, it's one of these things that we see this momentum building, whether it is video job descriptions, live events, those types of things. I've been looking at all of these, Lumina, Voice, VOISE, these really cool tools that are targeted in video job descriptions. I think you're going to, as we see that attention span that's gone from the average user being able to sit through content, through 20 to 30 minutes worth of focused time or content, down to approximately 5 to 7 minutes of focused time is all we're getting. So that means that video has to be a part of attraction, engagement, ongoing relationship management. So I am really excited about what video can do, not only from we're listening about the LMS going, the way of the dinosaur, and it's the LXP, but with the emergence of TikTok, Rob knows I'm a big fan of TikTok.
I'm not, but it's okay.
He is not. I am a big fan of TikTok. It fascinates me the way, we have people learning in milliseconds how to do certain things. And it's fascinating to me how much information we're consuming. We have almost 60 billion lines of push notifications, 60 trillion lines of push notifications going to individual technology consumers every minute. And so with that much data coming at you, video has to be a part of your strategy, does it not?
I love the idea of TikTok. I don't think it's going to last very long in the States, so I'm not going to waste.
I'd agree with you.
Personally, choose to waste my time on it, and I've been saying that to you for almost like a year and a half now. But YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, they're all fantastic in the same medium, same idea. I agree 100%. I think I read an article the other day. It was like on my Google feed of like, our attention span is now shorter than a goldfish. I think they're being sarcastic, but it's true.
It is kind of true.
And I love what you are doing with your training videos and making them 2 minutes. I think I told this story to you. So sorry, Lauren, if you're hearing this twice, where I was consulting with one of my clients and we're talking about marketing and referrals came up and he was, I was like, hey, when's the last time you told your company, this, he gave this like amazing talk of how to get referrals. Right. And then I asked him, when was the last time you told his team that, or like trained his team on that? Or is there a video somewhere that they can find it? And he just put his head down and took a note. And I was like, there you go. Like, so creating content in video format, whether it's to serve your internal customers or it's to attract candidates, candidates or customers, is going to be a great way. If you have not got into YouTube, is still the number two search engine. I think TikTok is fighting it. But again, my opinion on TikTok, and it's only my opinion. So building on YouTube is a little more sustainable, I think. Yeah. And I think, our podcast goes out in video now. We create even if we're like, they're not humans in the videos, there's video going out with audio. We post on YouTube. So I think one of the trends that a lot of the marketing people that I follow for 2023 was to like reinvest or to invest heavily in YouTube. I think it's important.
And I think that there's a lot of nuance there too. It isn't just necessarily what the audio, like what the format of the video, but it also is really crucial that you are authentic, like bringing that back, like making sure you don't make videos or TikToks that aren't authentic to who you are. Figure out what it is you want to communicate. And to Rob's point about if you have something to share that is valuable, there's a lot of benefit in doing the research to figure out how long should it be. That's still authentic. You're still getting your message through, but you need to make sure you're speaking about things that you're comfortable with. Like just inherently you might net some few new customers by doing like a TikTok dance, but probably not. Probably more likely if you're sharing
if it's authentic to what your like brand is, if your brand is fun.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. By the way, Todd, your comment is spot on. It's definitely not simple. You definitely need to invest in it and you need to think about it. So thank you for that. As always, you're on point.
Yeah, it's simple, but not easy.
Yeah. And Billy, by the way, Laura, remember in our 2 episodes ago of the podcast, I mentioned Audro, and Billy just said Audro does fantastic. So they're a Scottish-based interview staffing technology company, and they do fantastic video. They did like a Survivor event where the owner and the CEO and 3 other people had to eat random foods that were pretty gross. And they posted it on social, and they just do they're interesting.
So they brought back Fear Factor, and I know that because I'm a Gen Xer.
I think I know that too. Is that Joe Rogan?
The fact that you had to ask me if that's Joe Rogan.
I'm joking. I was joking. I was old enough for Fear Factor. I am literally on the cusp of being.
Evidently, fear is not a factor for you.
Well, here's a good question, guys.
That's a great question.
Richard, guys. Any content better than no content? It's a great question.
That is a great question. So frequency helps you with algorithmic visibility, right? So we know that to be a part of any sort of engagement algorithm is going to be frequency. But then we dig into relevancy, which is another component of any sort of, algorithmic SEO is, frequency, relevancy. And so do you have content just for the sake of having content if you want to be found in a generic search, but if maybe on page 2? So I think it requires a good balance of both of those things in order to get the attraction that you're looking for.
I think if you're not going to invest maybe a huge budget into it, simple and clean, behind the scenes. I love that. I think we're going to go into there now, right? So behind the scenes, building in public is a great way to do it simple and clean.
Yep.
The thought leaders, sharing someone else's content is a great way to start. If it's short clips, you can cut YouTube videos now, even if you don't own it, which is cited, obviously. Tell people why you think it's important and then use it. But I think to Lauren's point, be consistent. And if you need to keep it simple would be I don't think you can not have it. I think you need it. So
yeah, I would say simplicity over just sort of winging it. Keep it simple, but keep it frequent, and that should work in your favor. And then Rob mentioned this sort of share the behind the scenes. Why? Because people are looking to be connected to something. Millennials, Gen Zs, even Gen Xers. Gen Xers are looking to understand that who they're working with has the authority, and so that understanding what they might be walking into. So this whole idea of sharing a behind the scenes. So when I'm doing coaching on social recruiting and social selling, scheduling, we talk about like a Facebook Go Live. If that was a place for you to start to say, this is our office, welcome to our office, and we want to show you around. And here's who does. People want to be connected to that. So even if it was a prospective customer, introduce them to your team. I think we're going to see what I'd like to see. I don't know about you. How many of you, and Rob will tell me in the chat, remember when we used to have like branch resumes where we'd put the resume of all your branch members on a profile? Anybody remember that? And then you go pass them out so that there was this tangibility to the team. Anybody remember those?
Trust factor. So you'd have the background of all the members of your brand.
That validation that I'm working with somebody that's an expert. And so if we digitize those or we video them, we introduce people to the team that's going to be servicing them, a little bit of a video resume. That's something that people, it feels real. It feels authentic. So I think that
I only got 2 people who remember this. So
okay. Well, that just
good.
means that I'm old.
Anybody else? Come on, guys. Don't be shy. Get in the chat, please.
Okay, so little tip for you guys. We used to have this thing.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, David.
There we
used to
go.
have this thing.
There we go.
There we go. Hey, everybody's listening
This is
now.
not a spectator sport. We're all in this together. Please answer the questions.
I watched like my first football game forever.
Yeah.
This weekend, you can hang with me. But the branch resumes was the thing. And if you were good at it, customers wanted it. Do you have a branch resume? I want to see I want to see who I'm working with. And now we see them online and people meet our team. And so it's that stickiness because people want to be created to something. You see tools like, Great Recruiters and staffing referrals where we're exposing this. Who else do you know, right? Because referrals and authenticity are going to continue to be the lifeblood of, attracting and working with these pools of talent, the generational talent.
I think it's also worth calling out that there is a huge distinction between the corporation's responsibility to provide tools to to salespeople in order to be able to be nimble and be able to create those things, provide internal training and guidelines, educate yourself so that you can educate your salespeople. And then as individual salespeople, it's really about figuring out how you yourself, what do you have to offer and how can you communicate? Like they're very different things, but it really is, as an organization, you have an opportunity to provide that kind of guidance and ensure that your salespeople are, at the forefront, ahead of anybody else who is doing it on their own.
Yeah. And I think, take this very lightly. Publishing something or taking a chance on some marketing ideas and being human. I send a newsletter weekly. I publish an episode of the podcast weekly. I frequently make mistakes and I have to go find them. So I don't if you have this, perfection paralysis on this, even as a salesperson, I think right now we value humanity and mistakes more than, don't glaring errors where it's terrible to read, but if, didn't capitalize something or, you use the wrong there, it's going to be okay, right? People are going to laugh.
I mean, somebody's going to laugh at you.
Yeah. Make a joke about it yourself because it's funny. Right. So,
yeah. Well, and that, that leads me to this final point. We are in the world of personal branding, regardless of the generation that you belong to. Personal branding is a huge it should be a priority. That visibility is what is creating buyer confidence. So, when you are a millennial or Gen Z customer, having, your reviews and your performance and having visibility to that is going to make a huge difference. And, whether you're putting it on your website or you're giving them morsels of information, it is a huge, both generations are looking at reviews, and we've turned into this review culture. Or think about how we interact with Postmates and any sort of commerce. We're rating our experience, and that's entering into the workforce.
Well, I think this ties nicely too, Lauren, to technology, which is the last little bit here, and we're getting close. So
okay, so we have to talk. It wouldn't be a presentation if we weren't talking with me, if we weren't talking about technology adoption and talking about millennials and Gen Zers and Gen Xers. Gen Xers as well. We can do to the technology too.
Yeah, speaking in public doesn't mean you always get it right when you're speaking in public.
Right, exactly. We too can do the technology, us Gen Xers, just completely backwards sentence. But for all of the generations, whether you are a millennial or a Gen Z or Gen Xer, usability is going to be of the utmost importance. So we've got Gen Xers who are, they're either stuck in Microsoft, it's like Android and iOS, right? So, but usability in both of those experiences has to be of the utmost importance. So millennials and Gen Zs, Gen Z is the only generation to be entirely digital natives. So they know no other way than to talk to Google and ask a question or vocalize a request to Alexa. They're an entirely digital generation. And so you have to ensure that your technology solutions are easy to use, they're intuitive, they're fast. Because believe it or not, one of the number one complaints and I always tell my children, it's got to go to space. Could you give it a minute? I mean, I tease a little bit, but they are looking for fast. When you see how many times Chat GPT, and it wouldn't have been a presentation if I didn't bring up Chat GPT. Here we go. But
and her, go ahead.
It shuts down a couple times a day because there's so much interaction.
Lauren is running at least 7
I was going to say because Lauren is doing so many.
Yeah. Because I am doing at least 47,000 searches because I am just endlessly curious. But go ahead.
I have a question for everybody in the audience. I mean, so looking at these first 2 bullet points, right? Do you know in your business if a prospective client or candidate came to your website on their phone versus the desktop, would they think it's a modern experience?
Yeah.
Have you tested it? Like, yes, Scott, absolutely. We know that because we've been working together and you upgraded. So Scott went through a project last year to upgrade everything, and kudos to Scott for getting it close to right. But yeah, making sure that, how many people, I got 2 people so far. There's 230 of us in here. What do you guys think? Thank you, Lori, Bradley. Like, you really got to focus on, and think about this. If I was a recruiter, or if I was a good recruiter looking for a new role, and I came to your website and it looked like it was from the 80s and it was a single page and it's very bland, would you be attractive? Like, would you be an attractive employer? Would you be attractive to as a prospective customer, right? Like, if I came to your website and it hadn't been updated in 10 years, I don't know if I'm doing business with you. I don't know. Like, it's a fair question. I agree.
It's a fair question to ask. And guys, color matters. And colorful.
Look at this beautiful slide deck we gave you guys.
No, I'm just saying there is actually a color chart on the emotional output or emotional response to a specific color. So when I say, really think about your mission, vision, and values, because people want to connect to that. Also think about how you're branding and what you're using and what those colors, if those colors elicit a response, like blue is the color of trust. And so there's some really cool research out there that can help,
I think Matthew puts
help you up your game.
Matthew just put it like perfectly. Thank you, Matthew, for this. Yes, but constantly work in progress with updates and the new things and removing stop features and things that are, it changes all the time. So it's hard to, maybe this is something fair about social media and the way it works, right? Like, it changes all the time. So if you don't have time to pay attention to it yourself, you have to find the resources to help you, whether it's a podcast or a newsletter or a blog or whatever, or a consultant, but it's going to keep changing. The number one app, I think yesterday, was Temu. I meant to mention this, and that's a fascinating app that uses referral links to get you to download the app, and everyone gets a discount in your pod if you buy the same object or item together. Another Chinese app, but fascinating marketing strategy. So kudos to those guys, because they very quickly became the number one app in both stores.
And what is the name of the app? I do not know of this app.
I have no idea how to spell it.
Okay, well, now I need to know what it is.
I'll mute myself and go find it, because we can do that live.
Now I need to know what this is. So, but let's go through this. So we've got to optimize for mobile. I mean, guys, we've been talking about this for a long time. We saw significant investment during COVID, 26% increase in the investment of video communication tools like Zoom, Teams. That was a no-brainer. Everybody was very suddenly at home, but optimizing for mobile, this is now the next. Not only do we need to be able to work from anywhere, but a lot of people want to work from their phones. And so that has increased exponentially over the course of the last couple of years, particularly post-COVID. And so optimizing your website for mobile, that's a no-brainer. Understanding the privacy and security concerns. This isn't something you normally hear me talk about, but it is something that both millennials and Gen Zers are concerned about. You hear about CPA and GDPR, and those are driven factors to, there's a lot of online usage, and Gen Zers and millennials in particular over Gen Xers need to make sure that, and they need to have the assurance that your technology is safe to use. And so whether that's through privacy and security statements, obviously, and the corresponding investments, but this is actually a really big issue for these two generations, and making them feel good about what they're potentially walking into is going to be really important. The encouragement of collaboration. So, as it pertains to technology, I focus on this a ton with customers that we work with. If you have one source of truth in an ATS and a CRM, we have to create opportunities for collaboration. So whether your ATS and CRM has the usability that is inclusive of an at tasking, where we can include somebody, in an action that we're taking in the ATS or CRM, peer review systems for collaboration, tools like Nectar, NECTAR, to build camaraderie and community, and sort of you see tools like Workplace and Simpler that are creating online, intranet communities. So it's beyond the regular SharePoint intranet. People are looking for collaboration. They got a taste of it, being able to have these conversations in Zoom and Microsoft Teams. Now we have sort of this overhanging data and document control issue with all of those conversations happening out of our sort of core world. We need to encourage collaboration in our one source of truth.
Hey, Elle, we have two really good questions in the chat.
Yes, I love questions.
We have 2 minutes left. So first,
okay.
Irene asked, can we talk about the number of Gen X recruiters who don't want to post photos on their LinkedIn profiles or company about us page? Is this a common problem with millennials or Gen Z? I will leave that one to you, Elle. I have opinions, but I'll let you go first.
Yeah, so Gen Xers are considered to be less tech dependent than the younger generations, but they're still open to adopting. Usually when we see that type of resistance to change, it's typically because we haven't given them the what's in it for them. Particularly, if you're looking at something like LinkedIn or even Facebook, helping them understand that if they are moderating in your company page, their actual personal information isn't given out, right? Giving them that assurance that their personal information isn't going to be given out to the entire candidate nation or client nation. So there is, when we talk about, understanding privacy and security, we need to ensure or assure them as the parent or, employer that, their information is going to be secure. For LinkedIn photos, part of that is the Gen Xer in me who is like, you either want to be a thought leader in that specific vertical that you're recruiting for and or selling for, or you don't. And if you're going to do it the good old fashioned way, and that's feet on the street, that is certainly a strategy. The question will then, I think, remain, will it be enough to help you keep up with, the demands of the job?
Yeah. And then the second question, which I think is a really good question, and I love, is how you all might have found success from the older experienced generation and their wealth of knowledge, and how successfully pass this down to the younger generation. It's kind of like, and this is, not to be slapstick about it, but like The Intern with, who was it? Anne Hathaway and, God, his name, I know, like famous actor, De Niro. God, I couldn't get it.
De Niro, you forgot De Niro.
De Niro Hathaway. But there's so much value and mentoring, right? I don't know. I think there's still really strong mentoring all over our industry.
I agree with that. And the final point there, thanks, Robert, is AI. Gosh, we referenced ChatGPT, can't go a presentation without it. The usage of AI is going to continue to be prevalent and intrusive. And I'm going to use the word intrusive in our lives.
And that could be a positive thing too. Like, I think working its way into your life to make your life easier is ideal, right?
Yes. And the DNC setting for notifications. Okay. So remember Instagram. Instagram just put the quiet feature out very quietly, by the way. But
they were having a specific use case of people in the ATS, but asking them to remove their, don't contact them.
Oh, the do not contact setting. Yeah.
Yeah, because they're alumni, so you need their payroll information for X amount of years based on the laws. But guys, we're 2 minutes over. This was
awesome.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Hopefully you learned something. Follow all of us on LinkedIn. That's usually Lauren or I don't know, Erin, if you want people to follow you on LinkedIn, but those are our preferred channels. I think you do. And thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Oh, thank you, Jan.
Yeah. Thank you, Jan.